Welcome back to another episode. I am really excited about today's guest. Her name is Kyera. I just recently met her. She's the author of a book called Rich Bitch. She has this incredible energy, and I'm hoping she's exactly what you need today. And so we're just going to dive in and go where we're supposed to go. Welcome, Kyera.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Kyera, I have each guest start out by sharing something that they're really proud of in their life.
I am really proud to be able to say at 37, I love my life. I'm proud to say that. I don't know that many people can actually say that.
Yeah, it's funny. I was reading The Big Leap this morning, The Big Leap Year with Gay Hendricks, and he said, where would you scale your level of positivity? And would it be a 9 or 10 or lower? And I was like, I think I am like resonating right around a 9. And I just like was struck by answering that way because life can throw so many monkey wrenches and it's so easy to fall on your ear and shift into that victim mentality.
Yeah, I agree.
You have such beautiful energy. Kyera did, and I guess you do it every year. What year was this that the Rich Bitch 25 day?
Rich Bitch Money Goals. God, I don't know when I first started that. It had to be several years ago that I did the first round of it. And it's funny because I actually was doing that before I actually published the book.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was so cool. About a half hour every day for 25 days, I jump onto Facebook and Kyera would talk about one of the lessons or themes in her book. And as I was going through it, I just thought our entire audience needs to hear this woman talk because you've overcome so much. So it's not like, hey, I'm 37 and I love my life. And it's like, and were you born with a silver spoon and never run into any obstacles? And it's like your story is so different. And so would you share a little bit of your journey to the place that you're at now? Because I think that's what I would love our listeners to get to.
Yeah, I think it's important because nobody really cares about the success somebody has without actually knowing how they got there, right? Everyone wants to know that you can actually climb the mountain. And for me, I grew up very open, very psychic. I had a very open channel. So I always felt different from a very early age. I knew that I was here to do the work of transformation. I couldn't stand being in school, elementary, middle school, high school. I just felt like everything I was learning there was not going to be of use to me for the work I was actually going to be doing. And so when I was 15 years old, I was living in Ireland and I was going to high school there. And long story short, I'll just give the cliff notes for everything, but I was raped by 3 men. And then I moved back to the States around 16. And at 17 years old, I got into personal development. And so I was the youngest person attending these seminars and I'm watching transformation happen right before my eyes in real time. And I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's the work I want to do. And so when I was 19 years old, I healed completely from that experience at 15, and which is something that's very uncommon, right? Like most people, you go through a situation like that, you take it to your grave. You don't know how to let it go. You don't know how to be free from that. And so I started getting involved in all of this work. And then at 24 years old, I opened an office and I started taking on clients because I was working a 9 to 5, but I knew that's not what I wanted to do. And so I had clients coming to me. I actually got certified. We have a state licensed school in Michigan for hypnosis. And so I took it a step further. At our hospitals here, you can work with cancer patients. And so I got certified to do that. And so I opened this office. And because of that certification, I was actually able to advertise in Psychology Today. That's how I got my clients. And so I started working with these cancer patients, and people would come to me for all different things, whether that was energy work or past life regression. I don't do that anymore, or readings, but I would have all these people come to me. And then what happened was in 2016, I went through an unexpected divorce. And the circumstances around that divorce were unusual, right? My ex-husband was on the news. He went to jail. I was getting divorced in the courthouse while he was behind a jail cell. And on top of all of that, there was a criminal investigation with his work. That's the long story short, but he was also having an affair. And so here I am at 29 years old, and I'm thinking my life is over. I can't afford my mortgage. I can't afford my groceries. I'm angry. I'm depressed. I'm suicidal. And then I had this moment. I was sitting on my bedroom floor and I was feeling really sorry for myself. I was having a major pity party. And I thought, who am I without him? I didn't know who I was. I didn't know the answer to that. I was like, who is she without he? And I kept saying, who's she without he, she without he. And it ended up becoming a book that I did. But it was like the discovery of myself, independent of wife, sister, friend, client, employee, whatever. It was like, I didn't know who I was independent of being a wife. And I think that's true for so many women. And so I also had realized that on top of really not knowing who I was independent of anyone else, I was broke. I couldn't afford to provide for myself. And I was like, this is a fucking problem. So I set out on this mission to heal my life. And then I wanted to heal my finances and I wanted to teach other women how to do that. But I couldn't teach other women how to make money if I hadn't made it yet. And so I started with what I knew how to do very well. And that's the work of change. And so when I healed from that divorce and I overcame it, I moved my business online in 2019. And I started working with women who were going through a divorce or they were working to overcome infidelity. And it just grew from there. My business just pivoted and it evolved over time. And now I'm doing work for the world that I love and I wouldn't have it any other way. There's nothing that I would change about my past. It has all led me to this place.
That's an amazing story. Tell us what you're doing now. Describe what your business is right now.
Yeah, so I founded LiberateHER this year, and LiberateHER stands for giving every woman the opportunity to choose her rich bitch life. And you were obviously inside of Rich Bitch Money Goals. Rich Bitch is an acronym. And Rich stands for taking personal responsibility, leading with integrity, having courageous conversations, and healing for the highest good. Bitch stands for a woman who believes, invests, trusts, consciously creates her life, and she's heart centered in her pursuit of success. And so I'm teaching these principles to people that are deeply interested in actually changing their lives and their financial circumstances. So I get most people come to me because they want to scale their business, they want to make more money, but ultimately this is why I've trademarked your next business strategy, just like your next wealth strategy is a personal one. Like I'm in the work of transformation.
Yeah, and so many people come to us at Journey Beyond Divorce and they're looking for guidance through the practical path. And our belief is if you don't do all of the inner work, all the transformational work, then you'll meet the same guy or gal with a different face and you'll just repeat. Like it's the piece of paper and the settlement is nice, but the value is in that healing and refining and transformation.
Yeah, it's like being actually liberated from the experience is what most people don't actually know how to access. So when I moved my business online and I was working with women going through a divorce, I got a lot of kickback. I got a lot of hate inside of my DMs, and women were so mad at me because I was standing for the possibility that you can actually heal and overcome this very quickly. So I would get a lot of people that would come into my DMs and they're like, you don't get to put a timeline on grief. And I'm like, no, 100%. But as a woman that has overcome things in a very short amount of time, I'm going to stand for other women that actually have that desire. Because here's what I always tell people, and this is why to choose inside of mission statement for Liberate Her was so important, because you don't have to choose to heal. In fact, you're justified. The thing is, for most people going through a divorce, whether it's infidelity or it's just a breakdown in the marriage, they're going to have a whole list as to why they're justified to feel angry, upset, resentful, judgmental, not trusting. You are so justified. And if you want to keep that story, keep it. You're not wrong to keep it. But keeping that story is going to give you a certain experience of life, and it's just not the rich bitch life. So if you're willing to trade that story, understanding that you're choosing to let it go, not letting someone off the hook, but you're just letting it go so you can actually create a new experience of life, that's the work that I do. That's the people that I stand for.
So love everything you're saying, Kyera. I'm curious. I too was raped in my mid-teens and I went through a very high conflict divorce. And I would love to hear the approach or process that you used in healing, because I think that everybody has their own path and their own time.
Yeah.
And you have a pretty rich background that you started with, but what did that look like for you? Would you share?
it's it's interesting because even though I had a really rich background in terms of being, we weren't rich financially, but rich in the fact that I was in these programs and I had a lot of knowledge and tools. When I found myself going through my first divorce, because I've gone through two, but when I found myself going through that first one, I also had that moment of like, holy shit, if I'm this stuck and this depressed with everything that I know to do, what are other women? How are they overcoming things? When I at 19 years old, when I healed from that experience of being raped, what happened was I was in this seminar and I'm watching all of these adults come in, 19 years old. Everyone else is anywhere from late 30s to 70 years old. So I was just the youngest by a long shot every time. And so I'm sitting there and I'm observing these adults walk in the room and they look tired, they look unhappy, they look stressed, like they just look miserable. And I thought, holy shit, that is going to be me in 20, 30, 40 years if I don't let this go. Because what happened after that, after being raped, was I wanted to be safe. I'm like, you want to, if something bad happens, you want to try to avoid it, right? That's what people do. And so for me, I became very unapproachable. I had that like resting bitch face, don't fucking talk to me. It was like my protection
100%.
mechanism. But the on the flip side, it was keeping me separate from everything I wanted. I didn't want to be unapproachable. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to be happy. I wanted to grow up and love sex and intimacy. I didn't want to have that scar. And so when I saw these people, it was like, oh my God, the only thing for me to actually do is make a choice. I literally just, do I want to keep this story? Do I want to continue to be this way? Listen, you get really fucking good at what you practice. And if you practice being negative enough, you're going to have a negative life. And so I thought I've mastered how to be unapproachable.
Yeah.
I've mastered
Well,
how to
good
be
at that.
angry. I've mastered how to be a victim. I've mastered how to be judgmental. Let me master something else because this isn't giving me the experience that I actually want to have. Because the reality is, I love people. So first, I made a choice. I said, I'm justified to never let this go. I'm justified to be upset, to boo-hoo the rest of my life. I'm totally justified, but it wasn't giving me the outcome I wanted. And so
Mhm.
I made a decision that I was going to let it go, that I was going to start practicing being someone else. And the thing is, you don't just choose to let it go once and then all of a sudden everything's fine. Sometimes it is a daily choice because when you have been habituated to showing up and thinking and feeling a certain way for years, you don't have to practice doing that. You just are it. So I
Mhm.
had to practice being someone else. So that was the first step.
Yeah. And so it
And it
was
was
a daily choice of, so was it like every time a trigger would come up or you'd go, your mind would go to that
totally.
negative place, you'd be like, no U-turn?
For sure. But it was also understanding the work I was here to do. And I knew that I couldn't teach other people the work of change and the work of transformation if I wasn't whole and complete within myself. If I was still a victim to my circumstances, I can't make a difference for anyone else. And so there was also this knowing of the work I was here to do. And that just couldn't come with me. It's like, I can't teach you how to heal and change if I can't do it for myself.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I would love to hear your thought on, there's a difference between like putting lipstick on a pig and making believe. And you talked about this during the 25 days. Like you can't say it but not feel it. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's a little bit hard for people to grasp.
Yeah, and that's going to take like some somatic work, some body work, right? It's like you could sit there and affirm that you're happy all day, but if you are affirming that you're happy, but inside you feel like shit, well, that's the mind and body in opposition. It does nothing's going to change. Like you would literally, like when someone says to me, Kyra, I don't know how to feel gratitude. I don't know how to open my heart. I don't know how to feel love. It's like, and they'll go, well, how do I do that? Stop closing your heart. Stop doing all the things that keep you separate from the experience of gratitude. Like you've got to learn how to wake up and find abundance instead of lack. So it is people don't do the work because it's exactly that. It's work. It is work. I always say, like, if this work were easy, everyone would do it. We would have a healed society.
100%. It's for the courageous. In fact, as a coach, so many of my colleagues will say, we see people fall away when it gets too hard. It's like, oh, I can't afford it anymore. I don't have the time for it anymore. When in fact, you're right there. You're toe to toe with what you need to break through, but it's hard. It really
Yeah.
takes courage.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. So you made this decision at 19 years old, and what unfolded from there?
I always tell people healing is like peeling back the layers of an onion. And so once that was done, then my addiction to cutting came up. And I was like, let's tackle this. Because if you're a woman that loves herself and you're in the work of transformation, you can't cut yourself when you're mad. So that was an addiction that I had since middle school. And so that was the next thing that I tackled. And I just started looking at every area of my life that I hadn't mastered. Anything that was in the way of me experiencing love, I started working on healing and clearing that. And finances were like, that was the last thing that I took on.
So I'm going to ask you, a lot of my audience, one of the hardest things about a high conflict divorce is when you have children, because you're still in relationship with this person for
Yeah.
up to 18 years. And I know that you don't have children, but I'm curious if you do this work and then on a daily or weekly basis, you're toe to toe engaging with somebody who might be, let's say, the blame shifting, judging.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to hear your take on the practice that the listener needs to engage in to get where we want
Yeah.
to be. Is the uncertainty of divorce holding you back? Have you been trying to decide if you should mend or end your marriage and feeling confused, afraid, and paralyzed to decide? Between the emotional overwhelm and the legal complexity, it's no surprise you're feeling stuck and unsure of your next steps. That's why we've created a workshop designed to help you gain clarity, confidence, and a plan for moving forward. Go to jbddivorcesupport.com/overcoming-divorce-fear and register today. Of course, your friends and loved ones care deeply about you. But if you're honest, while they mean well, when it comes to your divorce, they just don't get it. And sometimes you leave those conversations feeling even more isolated. If you're feeling lonely and craving connection, support, and practical guidance, our high conflict divorce support group is open and accepting rolling enrollments. Facilitated by Karen McMahon, you join from the comfort of your home and feel heard, seen, encouraged, and powerfully guided in the emotional and practical steps ahead. Go to jbddivorcesupport.com/HCDSG and join us today.
Though I don't have children, I've worked with many women who do as they're navigating a divorce. I'll never forget my first client. She had two daughters with this man who cheated on her, and she was just devastated. She was pissed. And what was amazing was by the end of our time together, she completely healed. She went in to become coach for other women going through this. And so I say that because it's so possible. But here's the thing. Let's talk about normal human behavior. If I were to meet you on the street and I spit in your face and say, go F yourself, you're not going to probably go, I love you. It's okay. You've got something. No, you're going to match my energy.
Yeah.
Your inner demon and that fire is going to come out and you're going to be like, oh, hell no. So here's what I always tell people. It's common. You're moving in one of two ways through life. You're moving in a common way, or you're showing up as extraordinary. You're ordinary or you're extraordinary. And so it's super easy to lower our energy, lower our frequency to match where somebody else is at. You're going to have to choose if you want to actually disentangle from that experience, which I always tell people, if you get into the ring with somebody who is in a low vibrational consciousness, it's a loophole. It's a never ending hamster wheel. So your energy is actually going to have to be bigger than that person coming at you, which would mean that you better know really well how to check your ego. It's not easy work, but that is the first thing. And like even in my business right now, I'm dealing with something where though it's not divorce, I'm dealing with somebody who is doing something that they don't have a right to do. I've got attorneys involved and all this stuff. And that human part of me wants to listen. I boxed for many years. I was main event. I love getting in the ring. So there's that side of me that's like, can I just have 60 seconds in the ring with them? Right? Like, listen, I'm love and light. I can meditate for 10 hours and not move. I'm human. I have those moments. And so first thing is I allow my human to express herself, but I just don't do it with the other person. I get that anger out. I get that rage out. And then I go, okay, how do I want to experience myself? What's the evolved version of me? Because if I can't evolve through this, it's going to show up in other areas of my life. So I always look at that husband or that wife that is being difficult. They're a soul contract. A soul contract is a contract that we make. It's an agreement prior to incarnating into this lifetime. If you're going to learn forgiveness, so you're going to evolve, someone's got to play the role of the betrayer. Someone's got to play the role of the asshole, and you're going to have to match that with a different energy. The one that is matched to like your rich bitch self, not the ego self.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I raised my kids on a statement, don't ever let somebody else's bad behavior determine yours. And I think that's what you're really saying is like always level up, and it's not easy. And especially when children involved, I had a son who would come home and just melt on the floor crying because he was so crushed by his dad. And I've had clients over the years, and the truth is, you could get into the ring, right? You could like that SOB, and your dad is this, and or you could go in a different direction with it. And that's what I hear you saying. Okay, all of that is happening, and my baby that I brought into the world is hurting, but I still have a choice. It always comes back to that. I still have a choice to rise above or go higher.
Yeah, and it's not an easy choice. The ego and the human is going to have automatic feelings that make it really easy to seduce you back to showing up out of your power. But like the moment that you're triggered, the moment that you're reacting instead of responding, you're rendered ineffective. You're never going to make the ultimate change that you want to make in your life if you are reacting instead of responding to a situation.
And how have you dealt with, I think of all of the things that happen between our ears, our inner critic can really slay
Mm,
us, right? That's the thing that gets right to our heart.
yeah.
And I think that's what trips people up. It's so connected to the ego. So how is it that you handled your inner critic through so many trials and tribulations throughout your years?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe this is to speak to my second divorce because there were a lot of things that my ex-husband did that I could have pointed the finger to say, you did this, 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 this. I'm out of here. You suck. I'm out. And I asked myself a question. I didn't ask for the first one. And I said, how do I want to powerfully complete this marriage? How could I bring consciousness to the experience so that it's evolved from the first one? And so I said to myself, I want to leave with love. I don't even want to bring up like I'm leaving the marriage. That's a fact. That's happening. And so at this point, what's been done, the damage is done. I don't even need to go there. I'm going to leave this marriage in love. And so I'm not going to bring up a single thing that he did wrong. I'm actually going to focus on everything he did right because that man deserves the acknowledgement for all of the love that he brought into my life. But human beings and human behavior want us to look at all of the lack instead of all of the abundance, and then we magnetize it. And so when I sat my ex-husband down, my second husband, when I sat him down to let him know 2 weeks before Christmas that I was done and I was leaving the marriage, I didn't bring up a single thing that he did wrong. I just let him know that I've come to the conclusion that this is not in the highest and best interest of me and of him. And if it's not loving for me, it's not loving for him. We both deserve a 10 out of 10, and we can't actually give that to one another. He needs me to be somebody I will never be for him, and I want him to be somebody he will never be for me. And I realized like relationships actually aren't that hard. They're only hard when we dismiss the red flags. And I always say, if we could just have red flags be fucking deal breakers instead of warning signs, oh my God, we would be like so much
100.
further ahead. So I think it's choosing what we're focusing on. I was going to choose to love my husband, even though I was leaving him.
Yeah, I love that. And we talk about that in How Do You Tell When You Sit Down to Tell? Like that's the rule is like, do not sit there and go listing all of their
Mm-mm.
shortcomings and what they did wrong. That is
Yeah.
not how you want to start this process. But yours is actually even a level up. It's like, can you actually say this, that, and the other thing was beautiful? And the way you did it, which was so neutral in some ways, it was just like, this is the fact.
Yeah.
We can't be what we want to be for each other. And now, did you have a spouse who could receive that?
It was hard. So he's not in the work of personal transformation. He's never done any seminars. He's in federal law enforcement. And so there was just a difference in consciousness. But my heart was so open and it was so neutral that he received it as best he could. It definitely would have gone a different direction had I come at him with a list of what he did wrong, quote unquote. But to this day, he's a presence in my life. Like we got a puppy together at 8 weeks old. And so sometimes he still sees them, but I love him. I would do anything for him. And I can say that that friendship, like we are great in friendship, but we were never great in marriage. But that wouldn't be possible had I not completed the marriage in the way that I did.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you had toxic people in your life that you've had to walk away from?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. In many ways, he was one of them for me. Just the difference in mindset it was clashing. So it wasn't serving me. There's many things, but yeah. And then friendships, of course. And as I've scaled my business and just even evolved myself, you stop being a frequency match to the things that you've outgrown. And sometimes that looks like people and conversations.
And I would love for you to describe what that frequency match, what that means to you in a way that the listeners will understand.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that because sometimes I use language that's not always common, but think about it like an energetic match. So let's say you've gone through 10 years of personal development and then you meet a guy and he's never done any of that. There's no matter what, there's going to be a difference in consciousness, right? You're just operating at different frequencies. So if you're a person that is in practice of always opening your heart and you're in a relationship or have a friendship with somebody who is in practice of hating people or judging people, that's a frequency mismatch, right? I always tell people now, if you're coming into my world, I don't care if you want to be a team member, a friend, a client, I'm not catching you up to speed. You've got to be flying with me. I don't want to be underneath you, lifting you up. I want to walk side by side with people.
And when you go out and date, are you more clear on what did you say red flags should be?
I said red flags should no longer be warning signs. They should be deal breakers.
Yeah. So
Fucking
how do
deal
you,
breakers.
absolutely, I love that. And so when you're out, you're meeting someone for the first time, and we've got a lot of people who, they're divorcing folks that are on some spectrum or another. They have some neurodivergence. What are some of the key red flags that maybe you didn't see earlier in your life that are crystal clear now?
Well, I think it's more so like I spent when I left my second husband in December of 2022, I wanted a year of being single. I wanted a year of play, adventure. I didn't want to jump back into a relationship. So that was the first thing. And don't get, it was lonely. I had many lonely nights crying and just allowing myself to be with my grief rather than going on a date to numb it. And so that was really powerful. Now, I did have some really fun one night stands throughout that year of being single. I had a great time, but it was with really conscious men. But when I started dating and there were red flags, it was just, I'll tell you what, when you know what your 10 out of 10 standards are, and you're like, this is the person I'm creating. See, here's what most people do. They'll go on a date, they find a 6 out of 10. I'm not talking about looks, I'm talking about a 6 out of 10 on their list. And they'll be like, it's better than the 5 out of 10. Like maybe it could get better. I don't do that anymore. I used to do that. Oh, this guy's a 7. He's got 7 out of 10 qualities. Fuck no. Why would we ever settle? The only reason we would do that is we don't actually think that we can have a 10 out of 10. So for
100%.
me, I am unwilling to have anything in my life unless it's a 10 out of 10. So it's just, and I did go on some dates where I'm like, oh man, he's so great, but just those 2 things are missing. And there was a moment where I'd be like, do we want to go on a second date? And I was like, fuck no, you've done that your whole life. You're standing for a 10 out of 10 and nothing less. And I just kept standing for it.
I have so many clients, men and women, who will say, my standards are just unrealistic.
Yeah, listen, it's like you're living a life that's really reasonable, and that to me is super boring, or you're after what's unreasonable. So you're either the 99% that are just kind of going with the flow of what everyone else is doing, and it's a little boring, mundane. They stay in the job they don't want to stay in, the relationship that sucks, or you're the 1% that says, I get to have it all. As the creator of my life, I am in charge of what I say yes to and what I say no to.
Yeah, so we're full circle, ordinary or extraordinary. I love that.
Yeah, it's like I went on a date with this guy and I'm very self-expressed and very out there in just many different ways. And he was like, yeah, I would actually be uncomfortable if you were to like dress this way at an event. And I said, oh my God, I love that for you. Like, you should definitely go find a woman that doesn't dress this way because I'm actually not going to change how I dress. And he's like, you won't even compromise? I said, fuck no. Absolutely. Listen, I believe that anytime we compromise, we give away a little piece of our energy. I'll never do it again. I will not change to make someone else comfortable because here's what I know. There is a perfect match for every person. They're just typically unwilling to find it. And they don't have the worthiness or the standards in place to actually call that in and create it. So for me, it's real simple. If you're uncomfortable with something that I do, you get to go find somebody that doesn't do those things that I do that make you uncomfortable. It's just not going to be me.
Yeah, 100%. One of my huge ahas over the course of my time coaching was that in every relationship I was ever in, I was the lucky one.
Mm.
I realized that, I dropped my jaw. I was like, holy shit, like I'm a prize. I'm smart, I'm conscious, I'm not so bad looking. Why am I the lucky one? And that was when I saw how low my standards were. And I love what you're saying. It's so the opposite. It's I'm a prize. I love who I am. And there's a person out there who's going to totally honor and lift that up. And
Yeah.
and back to your energy, it's like there is an energy with believing in ourselves that I feel like I'm just learning on some levels. Like the depth of power in that full belief of oneself and what you're doing or what you're a stand for.
Yeah. The be and bitch belief. If you don't have it, you got to have it. You've got to find a way to have it. It's like if you don't believe you're worthy of everything you desire, then you will continue to stack evidence as to how that's true. For me, I believe I'm worthy of everything I desire, not the other way around.
And you're stacking evidence for that. And have you found that that does the ease keep growing as you
It's a
flow in
different
that
kind of
direction?
ease. It's funny because when I look at ease, I look at my business, right? Going from debt to scaling a 7-figure business. And it's certain things are easier when you are standing for that 10 out of 10. You're making more money, you're changing your life. On the other hand, though, things are a lot harder. I always say, if you want my success, you better want my initiations because nobody knows the behind the scenes that I deal with, even just from a business standpoint. You want to go bigger? Let me tell you everything that comes with going bigger and then tell me you want it. So, this again goes just back to that conversation of the 99% mentality versus the 1% mentality. I don't know that it necessarily gets easier. You just get better at saying no to the things that are a no. And for me, it's like, I just don't tiptoe around it. I went out with a guy one time and he was like, one of the issues I've found is like a lot of men have been intimidated by me, or if they don't have maybe the level of success that I've created, they've felt some kind of way. And so that's a no for me because that's not a frequency match. But I went out with this guy and he said to me out of nowhere, we weren't talking about money. I never shared anything. And he goes, I just want you to know, like, number one, I'm not impressed by what you've created. I'm not trying to keep up with you, and I'm actually really frugal. And I was like, I
Thank you very much.
I was like, listen, I was so turned off. I was like, you've heard me say in the rich bitch community, and I don't know if this is appropriate for your listeners, but I just am who I am. That's like giving dry pussy energy. If you were trying to turn me off, you have succeeded. You have very much succeeded. But that was a no, right? So then you keep it moving. So you just get really clear about what you're available for and what you're not.
Yeah, I love that.
She's like, I've got to find a way to blur that word out.
No, that's fine. Okay. I could chat with you all day as
I
we
know.
begin to wrap up, speaking directly to men and women who are neck deep in uncertainty, conflict, worry
Yeah.
about their kids, worry about money, all of which is very real.
Yes.
Give us your top 1 or 2 tips for whatever you think they would need in that situation, because virtually everything you say I find so point on.
Yeah. There's something I think what's really important. The first thing is you need to choose. You need to choose how you want to experience yourself as you are navigating divorce or you're on the other side of it. And now you're navigating dating and recreating your life. There has to be a moment where you sit down with yourself and you say, how do I want to choose to experience myself? What is the outcome that I want? And then what's going to get me there? Because for most people, when they actually take the time to sit down and create that, they're going to recognize that how they've been showing up is not in alignment with what they actually desire. And so, in that choice, now you're going to come in and go, I'm going to have to show up a different way. That would mean that I'm going to have to put my ego aside because most people are actually fighting against a person instead of fighting for their future. Most people are spending all their time, all their energy, all of their thoughts, all of their feelings. Every conversation is bitching about the divorce they're going through. And I get it, I've been there. But if that's what you're doing, then you're fighting a person instead of fighting for a future that is going to set your fucking soul on fire.
Love that. Love
Yeah.
that. Choose, figure out your outcome, plan your path.
Yeah. And then your actions have to be in alignment with that choice.
Yeah. And that's a daily practice.
That is a daily, I always say to people, you're the biggest bitch in the room.
Yeah. And when you falter, be kind and gentle to yourself and
Yeah.
start
And
over again
recommit.
tomorrow. That's all.
Listen, I've done it. I've had my moments. You just get back on the horse.
Absolutely. Well, it's been so lovely chatting with you. Could you tell everyone where they can find you? If you have some offerings out there right now, feel free to share.
Thank you. Yeah, if anyone's interested, I have a membership. We give 2 weeks away for free. So if they want to come in, try it out. It's called the Rich Bitch Experience. We do Q&As in there, but you can just come to my website. It's KyeraKC.com and they can find anything they need. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all the things. And then my second edition of Rich Bitch Money Goals is coming out in the spring. So you'll want to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to pick that up.
Yeah, the chapter on pleasure is really good. You didn't get to that one in the 25 days, but it's good.
So you've experienced Kyera's energy. It's gorgeous. Check out her website, join the membership if it so moves you. And thank you again for coming and chatting with me.
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
All right. We'll see you again real soon. Thanks for joining us on the Journey Beyond Divorce podcast. I hope you found guidance and encouragement to help you along your journey. If you like my podcast, please take a minute to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. You can also visit us at jbddivorcesupport.com, where our team of coaches support both men and women through our one-on-one coaching, group programs, online courses, and free resources. Stay tuned for our next episode, and I'll talk to you soon.